Hello and welcome to Policy and Politics with me, Tarun Nangia. Today we discuss a theme that we do everywhere called the brands that India made and brand story of India. We're going to mix today because our topic is how India has done since the liberalization when Narasimha Rao, who recently received the highest civilian honor, Bharat Ratna, he was at the helm, and today when Prime Minister Modi is at the helm. And why do we discuss this today? Because it's very interesting. Goldman Sachs 2 days ago put out a report that India's GDP will be ahead of USA's GDP by the year 2075. And if you look at the India growth story in the past 25-30 years, it's been fantastic. We've seen small businesses grow into billion-dollar conglomerates. The billion-dollar conglomerates are now worth hundreds of billions of dollars. So there has been phenomenal growth. But as we understand, the growth that we're going to see in the next 50 years is what we never saw. The kind of monies people are going to make are the kind of monies that never have been made in this country. So what you saw between 2000 and 2016, 17, 18, that was a trailer. The main course is yet to come. We have someone today as our guest who has advised Fortune 500 companies on their brand and strategy, and also companies wanting to enter India market, advise them on entry to market strategy. Also they brand themselves when they enter a complex market in India. Let me welcome somebody who's known to all of you, Suhail Seth. Good to see you, Mr. Seth.
Thank you, Tarun.
Thank you for your time. At the outset, when you first read this headline, splashed all across newspapers, India's GDP to be ahead of United States of America by 2075. What crossed your mind? Because you've been a part of that story with the top promoters of the country.
So it's about two things. Number one, India is an unstoppable force. The only thing that stops India are Indians. Whether those Indians are in government, whether those Indians are in bureaucracy, or whether it is our limited imagination. The second is that India today is a force to reckon with geopolitically. It's a force to reckon with economically. You know, in 1991, liberalization happened at the point of a gun.
Yes.
Imagine if the gun hadn't been pointed at us, we may not have been liberalized. Why? Because our leadership at that point in time had created cocoons of comfort which were mired in socialism. Look, let me tell you, Tarun, no society is equal. No society is built on equality because no human beings are equal. You may be equal if reference to caste, you may be equal in reference to income, but we're not equal, we're not the same. That's why we're different human beings. The problem is every country has poverty. So those who tell you that America mein poverty kam hai, they're lying.
There is poverty.
The problem is that in India, because of our political leadership at the beginning of our formation as a republic, we did not allow opportunities to be available to everyone. So हमने लोगों को वो opportunities नहीं दी जो हमें देनी चाहिए थी. We starved them of education. We starved them of primary health. We starved them of infrastructure. Lalu Yadav famously said when asked by villagers कि आप यहाँ पे सड़क कब बनाओगे? He said, why? Why do you want a road built? Because the rich people will come and steal your. What did Mamata Banerjee do? In 2008, she got rid of the nano plant from Singur. And Bengal from then till now hasn't recovered. The communists had already destroyed Bengal. So look at the challenges that we as a country have faced. And you know, Rahul Gandhi makes irresponsible statements. Adani, Ambani, Tara, blah, blah, blah. These are irresponsible. We must salute business. Now look at, I want to give you a historical perspective. Look at what happened when the two Koreas split. You had the Republic of Korea, South Korea, and you had North. What did the South Koreans do? They created chaebols. And these chaebols were their global business houses. Whether it was a Samsung, whether it was a Daewoo in those days, whether it was an LG. Why? Because the state recognized that the state could not run businesses. You tell me, we're sitting at one of the finest hotel groups in India, at the Taj. What business does the government of India have to run the Ashoka?
Good point.
So the point is, it was run because they wanted control. ये हमारी भारतीय परंपरा है कि भाई हमें कंट्रोल चाहिए. Why do you need control? because you're insecure. What happened with Air India? Naresh Goyal continued to lobby against the Tata Singapore Airlines deal way back 20 years ago.
92, 93, 94.
Now you tell me, was that fair? Was that fair on Air India? Was that fair on Indian consumers? Was that fair on the Indian traveler? Was that fair on the Indian pilots, the crew? Today, when the Tatas have taken it over, you're seeing a different India. People said, Mukesh. What did Mukesh Ambani do? And this you have to understand. You know, these are the people we should salute. The Ratan Tatas, the Mukesh Ambanis, these people need our salutation. I'll tell you why. What did Ratan Tata do? He took a punt and he invested in Chorus. He also invested in Jaguar Land Rover. At that point in time, Tarun, remember, there was no Indian flag flying on any hotel anywhere in the United States of America when the flag started flying at the pier, at Campton Place and Taj Boston. These are things to be proud about. They make the Indian diaspora proud. They make investors in those countries re-examine the way India is. What did Mukesh do? What was Dhirubhai's comment? कि भाई अगर तुमने telecom business शुरू करनी है, the cost of a call should be as much as the cost of a postcard. And what was Dhirubhai Ambani's consumer insight? That Indians can speak. They may not be able to read or write, but they can speak, which is why voice. What did Mukesh do with Jio? When this country became the capital of missed calls in the world, he said, make voice free. Because you're already, today, Jio is the world's largest operator for data in the world. I'm proud of it. You're proud of it. Every Indian is proud of it. Where is that money coming? Into India. Where is Mukesh Ambani investing? In India. Who's benefiting? The Indian consumer. Look at what the Tatas are doing. By that logic, look at the multitudes. Pratap Reddy came back from the United States to organize healthcare in India. Do you salute him? Of course. Is healthcare expensive? Anything that is good is expensive.
Yes.
But Narendra Modi has done a fabulous job with Ayushman Bharat, which you have to also salute. Today, Narendra Modi's mission on digital and digitization of India has reaped enormous harvest. We should be grateful. The tragedy in our country is we have a problem for every solution. We see a conspiracy in everything. कोई अगर अच्छा काम कर रहा होगा ना, we'll say, अरे यार.
So you mean we have, see, I ask you this only for one reason. Since you start consulting with these big companies, you work with promoters closely, be it Mukesh Ambani, be it many others. These were companies, if I remember right, when you started working, they were worth 50-60,000 crore rupees. Today they are worth 20 lakh crore rupees, 10 lakh crore rupees. So you have seen them growing by hundreds of times. Do you think that we have a culture that doesn't celebrate wealth? Though religiously we celebrate Lakshmi, our goddess, which is the goddess of wealth. But otherwise in the practical life, we tend to despise people who make money.
I think you have hit the nail. And which is why I made that opening remark about this socialist mindset, you know, mired in socialism. हमारे ज़माने में, पुराने ज़माने में क्या होता था? अगर आदमी अमीर होता था, we would automatically assume इसने चोरी की है. You would abuse wealth, but you would celebrate poverty.
Yes.
Subhash Ghai made that statement about Satyajit Ray's movies, you remember? He makes money by selling India's poverty, which, by the way, I don't agree with, because Satyajit Ray was one of the finest filmmakers India's ever had and ever will. But this was our orientation. Our orientation was a Tarun Nangia, when he went abroad, he could not carry more than $300. So, आप क्या करते? आप चोरी करते. The government of India had forced Indians to become law non-compliant and thieves. Liberalization set us free. The uncaging, the unshackling, and the freedom of India actually arrived in 1991. Before that, we were free politically, but we were subjugated economically.
One thing that I want to ask you is that, which I saw recently, that the market fluctuations of companies in America are equivalent to the valuation of our largest companies. For example, the market fluctuation of the top company is $25 billion down and up in a day. That's the entire worth of our. So let me give an example. Apple is worth almost the GDP of India, or these kind of companies with GDPs in trillions of dollars. Do you think India will see that day, given the Goldman Sachs report?
Of course.
We'll have $1 trillion companies in India.
Of course. I have great faith. I have great faith not only in the Tatas and the Reliances, the Adanis, the Birlas, the Apollos, the whatever. I have great faith in the young Indian of today who has again unshackled himself of social norms. ये दिन गए कि बेटा तुम्हारी डिग्री क्या है, तुम कहाँ से पढ़ के आए हो. People today do not wear education as a badge of honor, they use education as an enabler. So I do see, to paraphrase Martin Luther King, at the table of economic brotherhood, I see India at the head of the table.
Oh, nice.
I see India rise with flourish. I see India govern with responsibility. I see a new India. And I see a new India because I've seen a new leadership. I've seen a new zest. I've seen a new zeal. And I've seen an Indian today who is confident, who is courageous, and yet compassionate.
Let me take you 33 years ago. India's per person income was $367. 33 years ago in 1990, China's was $317, which means China was a little behind us. 317 versus 367. Now China, of course, has gone into the middle income range. We are still about 2,500, 700, 3,000. Until we become a middle income country, which is $7,000 GDP and beyond, you will not see real affluence on the roads that you see in Hong Kong, that you see even in Bangkok. How far is that according to you? Is it another 10, 12, 15 years to go? When you see affluence all around you, for example, like you live in one of the poshest condominiums in India, that road, when recently Raghuram Rajan visited, he said that this is like any other developed place in the world, which is the golf course road in Gurgaon. I just want to ask you, when we will have more such places in India where India feels rich? It's not that you go to this lane, then you feel rich. No, India is rich. It feels rich wherever you go, not just at the Delhi in the airport.
So let's go step by step. आप जो चाइना में होता है आप यहाँ कर पाएंगे? Will you be able to lock down a whole city? Will you tell people that die in your quarters and you will not be allowed to move because you want to control a disease that we've started? आप नहीं कर पाएंगे. You know, Tarun, you can't have it every which way. आपको democracy भी चाहिए, आपको गालियाँ भी देनी चाहिए, आपको jurisprudence भी चाहिए. You need a justice system that is egalitarian.
Yes.
How can everything work? You have to make some sacrifices. But are Indians happier than the Chinese? Yes. Are we more affluent? Yes. China does not show you their pockets of poverty.
So what
India doesn't hide.
Okay.
What they show you is what they want you to see. China is in the world's biggest makeup country. Everything is made up. They will show you what they want you to see. India allows anyone to see whatever they want to see. And you tell me, when you say affluence, what level of affluence are you looking at? You know, it was famously said, you can never be too rich or too thin. So you tell me, what level of affluence?
I tell you what level of
I
affluence.
think people today are getting a net of social security thanks to what Modi's done with Ayushman Bharat. People are getting free rations, those who can't afford it.
I want to ask you this. The affluence, whenever I speak to you once, you're in New York. The next time I speak to you, you're sitting in London. Third time, you're some other capital. But when I speak to you, you're rattling off how the infrastructure is. How
miserable. America has the worst infrastructure. Today, Delhi has better infrastructure than all of United States.
Is it so?
Yeah. John F. Kennedy Airport is worse than any airport in India today. But you know what the problem is? हमें गोरों की बातें और सुहानी लगती हैं. वो जो है ना दूर के ढोल. The problem is we have not understood what this country has been able to achieve in the last 10, 15, 20 years. And you know me, I don't care about any political party.
Yes.
And I will give Manmohan Singh as much credit as I will give to Narendra Modi. The difference being, Narendra Modi has taken us in a manner that even I didn't ever imagine.
Right.
But we have to be grateful. We have to be grateful for those young men and women who have started their unicorns. We have to be grateful for those people who have said, we will make India successful.
Right.
Hey, no nation becomes successful on its own if its citizens want to be mired in poverty and be regressive.
Coming back to this question that India sees, your Goldman Sachs sees India going ahead of United States by 2075. Let's come back to today's data. Today, India is at $2,388 per capita income, which is $2,388 per person. China is at $12,720. In 2000, which is, when the takeoff happened, a lot of growth during the Vajpayee years that we all celebrate, we were at 1357 and China was 4,450. So we were not what China is even in 2000. We are not here today. Do you see this gap being covered up in the next 20-25 years? Because we will take time.
I do. But let me tell you, economies are not built or destroyed overnight. They can be destroyed. Now let me tell you something which I will only say on your program because I know it will not get edited. We celebrated Pranab Mukherjee.
Yes.
He brought about the most regressive tax regime.
Yes, the retrospective tax amendment.
Which went back to 1963.
And Vodafone was crazy.
Absolutely. So, let's not be dishonest about our realities.
Okay.
You had one judge who believed that the entire telecom sector was a scam. And that got away.
Yes.
I mean, you had the Supreme Court of India throw out the government's claim on Vodafone, and yet Pranab Mukherjee went back to Parliament and rammed it through an ordinance. So we have had a lot of issues to contend with.
Okay.
We have had democracy has been abused and misused by a lot of political parties. But despite all of that, the economy has been on firm footing. And you know why? Because the average Indian believes it can be done. You know, I often say this, Tarun. India is like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, the bumblebee is not supposed to fly because, of its size. But you know what? The bumblebee doesn't know that. So it flies happily. If you sat down and listed all the issues that are wrong with India, India would never succeed. But the Indian spirit is so resolute. You look at us here. Any other country with our size, with our, at that point in time, reasonably weak infrastructure would have collapsed during COVID.
Yes.
We didn't. We celebrate, and we should celebrate our healthcare workers. We should celebrate our doctors. The point is, we give thanks to God in this country, but we don't thank our fellow Indians enough. We thank Bhagwan, but we don't thank the doctor.
One thing that I want to ask you also specifically, because you worked with these people, let's speak about the top 4-5 industrialists and industrial houses in the country. Tata's, you have had a long association. Reliance, you have had a long association. Let's start and then we go to others. Tata's is of a certain size, but you mentioned Chaeballs, which is South Korea. Do you see these companies growing to be world beaters? These companies growing?
They are world beaters. Let me tell you, and I say this with deep honesty, and this is not to flatter anyone or this thing. To my mind, the one person, actually two now, the one person who created the house of Tata in the vision that perhaps the founders had envisaged was and remains Ratan Naval Tata. What has N. Chandrasekaran done? He has taken it in that spirit, in that vision, to a different level. When Chandra took over in February 2017, the one thing he said was, I want to create a one Tata, Tata One. Basically, look at integration of all the group companies. It's happened. Today, where we are sitting, Indian hotels, outperforming every other hotel company.
Yes, yes.
You look at all the companies within the Tata fold, Tata Steel, Tata Power. Look at what Tata Retail has done. Look at Zudio. Look at TCS has always been a trailblazer. What has therefore Chandra done? And Chandra has done it internally, just like Mr. Tata did. And let me tell you, I'm not being emotional when I say this. My association with the House of Tata goes back to 1990. I don't think you were born then. I have seen this group be unwavering in its commitment to society, in its commitment to community. I have seen decent people join them, decent people remain with them, and they have behaved utterly decently with those people. Decency has a long and impactful karmic effect. And I'm seeing the same with Mukesh. See, Mukesh is technically a second generation Ambani. But in my mind, he's a first generation Mukesh.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you why. Dhirubhai had massive vision. Mukesh has married vision with scale. The scale of a Mukesh Ambani is unimaginable. And today, actually, when you look back as a nation, we should be glad that we live in the times when you have a Ratan Tata and you have a Mukesh Ambani living in the same annals of time.
I want you to decode a statement that Mukesh Ambani made in a recent interview. An interviewer asked him that, what would you wish? He said, I wish that today I was younger. I was 30 years old. And the interviewer asked why. So he said, because I could have done much, much more bigger things at a much bigger scale if I was that young. What was he hinting at? Was he hinting at something even much more bigger than what he's doing today? Because what he's doing today is much very, very, very big.
But you see, that's it. Nah, you and I can't understand. Otherwise, we would have been somewhere. हम लोग तो यहाँ बैठ के interview कर रहे हैं. भाई हम भी कहीं होते. The difference, Tarun, is these guys, their scale is unimaginable.
But tell me one thing, sorry to interrupt.
I mean, I always thought Chandra was a CEO of TCS, chairman. But suddenly you then see the vision. And no less than a Mukesh Ambani praised Chandra in his speech at a technology institute. It's in the public domain. And this is what I'm seeing, which has become so good. The respect that a Mukesh has today for a Ratan Tata. Today I'm seeing a system of corporate affection, of corporate collaboration that one never saw before. So Mukesh is right. If he were younger, the world would be your oyster. You wouldn't have to contend with the license, Raj. You wouldn't have to worry about some silly ministerial diktat or a bureaucrat.
Yes.
Today, and this is why I have to tell you, and I speak to industrialists across India and abroad, the one thing they've said is, no one needs to go to Delhi anymore. So if Narendra Modi has done one thing and one thing brilliantly, he's cut Delhi out of your travel itinerary. So you don't need to come here and do puja part and suck up to anyone because the policies are laid out, the regulators are clear. If your need is within the ambit of that policy, well and good. If it isn't, Narendra Modi won't help you. So all these stupid people who said, oh, Narendra Modi is helping this person. Narendra Modi was my briefing client in 1999. 2008, I had dinner with him, which I've written about. It's in the Financial Express. Narendra Modi then and Narendra Modi to this day hasn't changed. Modi has no friends. Modi favors no one. If at all, Modi favors the brave, the courageous, and the resolute Indians, as he should. He's the Prime Minister, for God's sake. If you don't have inspired leadership, what the hell will you have? And which is why I'm saying, even if you see, look at what happened. Today you have an N. Chandrasekaran as the head of Tatas. You have Mukesh, who has laid out a brilliant succession plan. I mean, you're seeing people who are not only investing for the future, they are investing in India's young. You have heard Mukesh say this, you have heard Chandra say this, you've heard all these major leaders say that we are continuing to invest in the youth of India.
One thing that I want to ask you, 2004, 5, 6, you were at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Those years, I mean. Mukesh Ambani used to be there, much younger. I think he would be in his 40s then. Sunil Mittal used to be there. There were many others. Pawan Munjal would have been there. They had a certain scale and size even then. But we couldn't dream of what they have achieved in 20 years. Given that background, what they achieved between say 2004 and 24, what do the next 20 years look like from your perspective? Because you've seen them then and you know them today. What are the next 20 years looking like for these companies?
So, everyone who says, oh, you remember during the dot-com boom, people would say this is an old economy company, new economy company. There's only one way of judging a company. Is it profitable? Yes. And is it relevant?
Okay.
So profit and relevance are the only twin parameters of judging a company. Look at all these companies today. Tatas were the first to get into defense system, defense manufacturing. Yes. Baba Kalyani was doing something, but Tata was the first. See what Tata did with consumer products businesses. See what Chandra did. Amalgamated all those businesses, whether it was Tata Sampann, whether it was Starbucks, Tata Coffee, Tata Tea, all come under one. You're seeing the kind of consolidation that has never happened. Today, Ginger has opened a 300-room hotel in Santa Cruz, and that was an idea that Mr. Tata had approved of, which was mooted by C.K. Prahlad under the whole ambit of smart basics. Look at what Mukesh has done. Who would have imagined in 2020, February, Mukesh Ambani announced that Jio would go through a massive transformation with Jio Global Platforms. That's when the partnerships with Meta and all these things happened. Who would have imagined? Why should they partner you? They partner you because they think India is important. They think the Indian market is important. And I'm seeing, as you rightly said, not only them. Today in Davos, you have an Onkar Kanwar with his son Neeraj. You have Apollo Hospitals people. You have a Nikhil Kamath going there. You have all these people, which, by the way, makes you proud. Because that's the India you want to see. You want to see the young. You want to see the new. but you also want to see people who are established. That's, to my mind, that is the hallmark of today's India, as it should be.
One thing I want to know from you, you spend a lot of time in London and you go often there. I remember having conversations with you where you've said that how, say, a Lakshmi Mittal made his mark in that city. There is an Anil Agarwal there in that city. There used to be Ghulam Noon in that city who built the whole Noon Products brand.
Correct.
So there were these people in London. What would you like to comment on their contribution to brand India? These people.
Outstanding. Outstanding. At one stage, if you remember, Ghulam Noon ran the biggest packaged food empire. It was the biggest packaged food empire. See what the Hindujas have done with the new OWO Raffles Hotel.
Yes.
It is the biggest investment in the hospitality business in the United Kingdom, or I would imagine in Europe. I mean, go and see that hotel. It's in the old War Office, the building that Churchill used to occupy, from where he led the war effort. So these Indians are doing well. You're talking about the Anil Agarwals and the Lakshmi Mittals or the Hindujas. I'm going to tell you about various young people whose names I may not know, but I know the impact that they're having.
What kind of businesses?
Today, I'll tell you. Who used to head SoftBank?
Nikesh Arora.
No. Then he went off to head Google.
Yes.
Today he runs his massive cybersecurity thing in Palo Alto.
Okay.
But look at what Rajiv Mishra did with SoftBank. So Indians have made a mark everywhere. And you know something? We do not celebrate the real people. Look at Dr. Debashish Ghosh. You don't even know who he is. Okay, he's amongst the finest surgeons based in the London clinic, which is where King Charles goes for his treatment.
Beautiful. Nice. Good to know this.
These are, this is what we must celebrate.
And we must also talk about them.
Absolutely.
Because unless we talk about them, how will they get talked about?
And let me tell you, even politically and economically and bureaucratically, India in the United Kingdom has changed. After a long, long time, we have a great High Commissioner in the form of Vikram Doraiswamy. What is Vikram doing? He's actually reaching out. At one level, he's cleaning up, partaking, finalizing a proper narrative for India. And on the other, he's appealing to industry. He's appealing to investors. Irony will kill you several times. Who's the largest employer in the United Kingdom? The House of Tata. It gave me the greatest joy to see the Land Rovers become the official cars for Wimbledon. भाई जो भी आप कह लो, जब आपका झंडा लगा हुआ है और आपके देश की संपत्ति या आपके देश का ब्रांड वहां है, your heart swells with pride, as it should. I'm a deeply, deeply proud Indian. I do recognize we have pains. I do recognize there is inequality. But I also recognize that we are only as strong as our weakest link, and we are working towards strengthening that weakest link.
One thing that I want to know from you, because you've advised promoters and big companies on brands. America is known by its brands, and what kind of brands? Ask a kid will say Coca-Cola.
Correct.
So ask some other guy, that's some company you advised, I think.
21 years I sat on the board.
Yes. Ask someone else, he say Microsoft. Ask a techie, is Microsoft the biggest? Ask anybody, he'll say Apple. What do you think will come out of India, or some brands that you would like to name that you see, A, they are already big, second, they have the potential to be big, in your way, in your mind?
So I think that's a brilliant question. Personally, I've always wondered, we keep talking about our tech power. Why did we not create a Facebook? Why did we not create a Google?
There are people, so many of them.
Jet Airways, it is another matter that Naresh Goyal became greedy and whatever the hell happened. But we created a great airline.
That time. Yes.
It was a superb airline. Let me tell you what the Tatas will do, will make you and me so proud. Because I can tell you by 2026, Air India will be the world's finest airline. Today, if you download the Air India app and you have a loyalty program with Air India, it runs better than Miles and More, it runs better than Chris Flyer, it runs better than any other goddamn program.
Is it?
Hats off to the team at Air India. But also think about one thing that had happened. We were a society which hated people failing. अगर तरुण नांगिया ने ये कप मैन्युफैक्चर किया और नहीं हुआ तो तरुण नांगिया would lose money. No bank would ever give तरुण नांगिया a loan again. Your mother would say, मैंने तेरे को कहा था बिजनेस में क्यों घुसा, नौकरी कर लेता, गवर्नमेंट जॉब कर लेता. We were an unforgiving society. We never ever forgave failure. And if you failed once, you were cast aside. Come to America. In America, if you failed, you always got a second, third, fourth. What is the WeWork founder doing? He has pitched again to start a business.
Yes, yes.
What did Steve Jobs do? Hewlett-Packard, Apple, Microsoft founded in garages because they didn't have societal pressures. Arey, bhai, mera beta. And one great consumer insight I'll give you. Do you know how to measure the evolution of Indian society?
How?
Look at the matrimonial ads. In the good old days, they would say IAS, IFS hona chahiye.
Yes.
Then they would say doctor hona chahiye. Then they would say government job hone chahiye. Today they don't.
Achha, let me come to real estate. So this is because in one of the condominiums you live, I saw an apartment recently was sold for 125 crores. And you would also be shocked that, in the area that you live. So do you see this also an indicator how the economy is doing, that people are paying high for real estate? It's a vibrant market. Commercial and residential properties are going in the millions of dollars in Gurgaon, in Delhi, not in New York. Could you just speak about, say, DLF is that brand, but there could be others?
No, I've worked on the DLF brand, so I know it closely, plus I live there.
Huh.
On payment, so no discount, no free. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
So I always clarify that. So now let me tell you about DLF. What did Kushal Pal Singh do? Kushal Pal Singh saw an opportunity. He said, look, we will create a new city. At that time, smart cities and all didn't exist as a concept. And Gurugram came. What did Rajiv Singh do? He took it to a different level.
Yes.
KP Singh said, I will build a luxury community, but luxury is what luxury is seen as. So that community was created around the golf course. Today there are 2 9-hole golf courses. I don't play golf, but there are 2 golf courses. Yeah. What did you first start with? Aralias. Then you created Magnolias. Now you've created Camellias. The community is centered around every facility. Tarun, I can tell you today, it is the finest development in the world. Anyone tells you anything, tell them to shut up because they have no clue. And I'll tell you why. Many years ago, Chris Birch, who is Tory Birch's ex-husband, the designer's ex-husband, came for dinner to my house in Gurgaon. And he's saying, oh my God, I haven't seen anything like this anywhere in the world. He has homes all over the world. I can tell you what DLF has done is world class. The only problem is even DLF can't manage some unruly people if and when they become residents. That's
You're
not
right.
their problem.
Nobody can.
But in terms of facilities, in terms of staffing, in terms of product quality, in terms of security, maintenance, world class. Now you tell me, why should I not be proud of DLF? Today, if DLF tells you we will deliver, they will deliver. It was the only company in those days. That's why their promoters didn't go to jail. All the other guys went to jail. That was the only real estate company in India which then and to this day only took money by check. They never took money by cash. So, shouldn't you be proud of a brand like DLF? Of course you should. Shouldn't you celebrate that you have a DLF in India? Of course you should. And you tell me, in the condo where I live, and Aralias and Camellias, some of the top CEOs of India reside because most offices are in Gurgaon. As far as Delhi is concerned, it's 12 minutes to the airport. 100%. I mean, I don't want to be an advertisement for DLF, but you know what I'm talking about. You want to play golf, you play golf. You want to play squash, you play squash. You want to swim, you swim. I have a 4.5-year-old child. She can, run around in the garden, in the play area with children. They've created a community. Not that I attend any of those functions, but they have, Holi ke liye, Diwali ke liye, iske liye, uske liye, Christmas, all of that. Now, that to my mind is a tremendous statement. I will tell you today, they have the finest people in terms of staff. That we should be proud of. That today India is able to create a cadre in hospitality which is world beating. Look at what Puneet Chhatwal has done with the Taj. All said and done, did you ever imagine that the Indian Hotels company would be as transformed as it is today?
No. This has become a colossus. This thing has become...
Which is a good thing. Today, I don't know if I'm getting the exact fact, but I think today the Indian Hotels company has the highest market valuation. It's in the top 3 in the world.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, where did you imagine this, yaar? Has Puneet Chhatwal done it on his own? No. But he's done it at the dint of great leadership, supported by a great board and Chandra. Now, I'll give you a small thing. It's in the public domain. Chandra said, look, we want to make sure that wherever we are consumer facing, we are at the top edge. That's a great statement to come from a sitting chairman of Tata Sons. Look at what Mukesh has done with NMAC. Who would have thought that an Indian would give back? The last time something like that had happened was when the Tatas, through Homi Bhabha, endowed the NCPA. Today, the Nita Mukesh Ambani Cultural Center is an oasis of joy. It has programs that a Tarun's child or my spouse or your parents can go and enjoy. They're celebrating India. They're also bringing the world. So whether it's a Matilda, whether it's Sound of Music, whatever. Now you tell me, where is all this going on? So I'm a great believer, Tarun, that corporate India, Indian leadership, Indian industry has also started giving back in great measure.
They have?
Absolutely. Sachin Pilot made one cardinal mistake and I fought against it that time publicly. This whole 2% cap on CSR was ridiculous. Houses like the House of Tata and all were giving 8, 9%. Today, look at what companies are doing across. And that is something that we should be proud of. So I'm actually looking at a resurgent, recalibrated, reinvigorated India, which is what India is. So you're right. The brands that India made is also a story of the brands that made India. If we didn't have a Jio, we'd be stuck.
Yes.
If we didn't have an Air India of the kind that we will now have, we'd be stuck. So, as much as we need to celebrate the Indian spirit, we also need to celebrate these brands because they were made in India, made for India, but are today global challenges.
So, if you see something, if you move it from the top two, now let's move to specific brands. DLF we mentioned. In the south,
look at Apollo Hospitals.
That's one of the best brands. Because you remember when
look
Apollo
at Hero. Look at Hero.
You know when everybody discussed Apollo recently, there are some of the finest hospitals in Chennai, which they are. We all agree. But Jaggi Vasudev Sadhguru got operated in Apollo hospitals in Delhi in Okhla. That's where he got operated. Everybody took up notice that it is about trusting a brand. Coming and getting, if such big people trust their health with these brands, he didn't fly off to New York or some other place. He got treated here in the city of Delhi.
In fact, let me tell you, if the government ever privatizes AIIMS, they'll do AIIMS a huge favor. The quality of healthcare specialists at the All India Institute of Medical Science in Delhi and now the AIIMS that are being, it's enormous. The problem is we are very poor marketeers in this country. यार अगर हम लोग अपने हेल्थ केयर को ठीक से मार्केट करें, look at what Apollo did initially, and this is worth knowing. Apollo began medical tourism like no one else did because they understood that satellite countries around India lacked the expertise. Today, even Africa is a catchment area.
Is it?
Yeah.
A lot of patients from there?
A lot of patients from Africa.
I have been told this, but you would like to confirm. I see a lot of Indians settled in Canada coming back to India for treatment, or settled in USA coming back to India for treatment. Do you think that's an endorsement of what kind of facilities we built? That you
beats also cost and waiting time. Huh? For instance, under the NHS in England, if you want a hip replacement, you'll have to wait till, let's say, Queen Victoria is reborn, which means it'll never happen. Yeah. So obviously people say, to hell with it, yaar, main yahan aa jao. Now I'll give you an example. If you were to go into a London private clinic and you were to spend 7 days there without any surgical intervention, for basic treatment, your cost would be about £40,000, which is 40 lakhs.
That's the cost.
Yeah. Compare it to India. Acha, फिर भी लोग कोसते हैं, भाई healthcare expensive. Remember one old rule, my friend. You pay peanuts, you get monkeys. You cannot fiddle, which is why between you and me, I don't want to make a political statement. I'm very wary when they say reservation in healthcare and education, because these are specialist areas.
Don't get reserved those areas.
You cannot, it's
one thing I want to know, so Apollo is Pratap Reddy, he's a big man, but unrelated people. Somebody was making tires until recently, which is Onkar Singh Kanwar of Apollo Tires, is another Apollo. But they have come out with a group of hospitals which I think has earned a lot.
Artemis.
Yeah,
but look at what Apollo themselves have done, which is remarkable. Today they have facilities in Netherlands, they have facilities somewhere else. I don't know the details.
Yes.
They've spread. Look at what TVS has done in the south. So you're seeing, look at what Sanjeev Goenka is doing in the east, silently.
Kolkata.
You see, the problem is, we are sitting in Delhi. तो हम लोग सिर्फ दिल्ली वालों की.
Right.
Look at what Sanjeev Goenka has done in terms of reinventing Saregama with the Carvans. Did you ever imagine? See what he's doing with First Source. See what IPL has done to brands and branding. So actually, if you push back and then see the India, there's a lot to be proud about.
Tell me one thing which I want to know from you. When you are spending time in New York and London, which are the brands that are most visible to you? Which are Indian brands, the brands that India made? Tata's, of course, being one. Which are the other brands that are visible, that you feel have an imprint beyond the shores of India?
Not many. I mean, there may be some, television brands, news brands, which are being circulated there, but not many. But that, see, there's also, to my mind, people say, bhai, ab bahar kyun nahi ja rahe? Kyun jayenge? If your captive market is growing double digit, why the hell would you go to a market which is growing 0.2%, 0.3%? And then go through all the hassles.
Yes.
So it's better. Now look at what's happening with semiconductor chips. Look at what, the whole universe is shifting here. Mark my words, India will be the EV leader in the next 5 years. And no one says this. People, Elon Musk has cancelled, goli maro yaar, Elon Musk ko. Who cares? Look at the electric vehicles that Tata Motors is producing.
Yes.
Look at the investment that Mukesh Ambani has made or Gautam Adani has made in green energy. Fantastic.
But good you said this. Can you just talk about this a little more? The two big guys, Adani and Ambani, have put enormous amounts of money in green energy. What is going on there in your? Because I think this kind of money, they've got tens of billions.
Because they are both responsible and relevant. They recognize that fossil fuels have to be replaced if you want planet Earth to be saved. Sustainability cannot be mere lip service. But sustainability has to be rooted and mired and anchored in reality.
There also then we rely on the private sector to deliver. This is not the government doing. This is the private.
Which is what the government is doing. So the whole PLI is a good thing. भाई आप एक linked incentive दे रहे हो. That linked incentive is very clear. Look at what's happening with retail here. Today, you tell me, when Amazon first came, and Amazon, by the way, are scoundrels. I will say this publicly, I don't care. Amazon actually violated the rule book. And then they got caught. If you remember, Narayan Murthy had to shut Catamaran because it was coming up as a preferred supply. They were playing with the algorithms.
So basically, the products that only they supply were showing
Exactly. Their choice, Amazon's choice. Now tell me, has the Kirana store been wiped out? No. Do you still go to the Kirana store? Yes. Has McDonald's wiped out your Vada Pav Wala? No. When I'm in Bombay, I still have Pav Bhaji at Sardar's.
Yes.
I still go to Cafe Military for my Keema Vada Pav.
Yes.
Keema Pav. मैं कल कलकत्ते था. I had my chicken bharta from Qualities.
Right.
Night before, I had my chicken roll from Nizam's. Please remember, in India, we are large enough both as a market and in our consumption behavior to absorb everything. ठंडाई क्या खत्म हो गई है? नहीं. रूह अफ़ज़ा खत्म हो गया? नहीं. Today, what I'm proud about, Tarun, is I'm seeing young people who are starting cloud kitchens. Today, people are starting home furnishing businesses out of their homes. No pun intended. It's a great thing, yeah. We don't celebrate our country.
Let's come to the brands which are locally big, but even nationally, of say Haldiram's or Bikaner.
Look at Haldiram's here.
They have created, I think, something to be proud of for India.
In addition to screwing our weight, they have created magic for themselves. Who had imagined? You know how the brand began? It began as a bhujia wala who had relocated from Bikaner to Bada Bazaar in Calcutta.
Oh, is it so?
Calcutta की देन है भाई. तो फिर अब वहां से it continued to spread. What did Karsan Bhai Patel do with Nirma? It used to be sold on a reedy, on a hand cart, and then it became a national brand. So, my friend, I'm glad you're doing this program, and I'm glad that young people or not so young people are watching, are hopefully watching. We need to understand that we live in a great country. We are surrounded by great brands. We are surrounded by great visionaries. Sometimes we knock them because that's become our habit. We have become a cynical nation at times. We find fault where no fault lies. We have become Shakespearean. You know, in Julius Caesar, William Shakespeare की एक line है. the good is oft buried with the bones, the evil lives long after. That's what we at times become. अरे इसमें कोई गलती होगी, अरे यार इसमें कोई.
Achha, let's now come to marquee projects in the country, which is also embodiment of brand India. The Delhi airport, the Bombay airport, the upcoming bullet train project, the Delhi-Bombay expressway. Do you think these marquee projects add to brand India experience? Because
absolutely. Look at what's happened with tourism. It happened by default. When COVID happened, when other countries overseas had shut their borders to you, what did you do? You traveled within India. I went to a place called Thiog, where Taj is a hotel.
Yes, I've seen the property. Yes.
Fantastic. Look at what Vicky Oberoi did with Wildflower Hall. Fantastic. Look at what Taj has done with Madhakeri. Please celebrate karo. And this I will tell you, I will salute Narendra Modi for one thing. This man single-handedly has created a tourism path for India. And let that be said. And I don't give a toss about what these other political jokers say. Narendra Modi, more than any Prime Minister of India, has encouraged the Indian to travel. And you know why? Because he's Gujarati. The two inveterate travelers are Gujaratis and Bengalis. You'll find Gujaratis and Bengalis on a snow-capped peak or lying buried in a beach.
They'll be there.
वो travel तो करेंगी. Hats off, yeah. To Narendra Modi. भाई उसने आपको अच्छा वो चुपचाप बैठा हुआ है लक्षद्वीप पूरा Maldives को ले लेते.
That's all.
He didn't say go to Maldives. He said, भाई I'm in Lakshadweep.
Yes.
Them stupid Maldivian minister. बैल मुझे मार.
We'll do a show on this, but let's discuss some element of a spiritual power of branding. We're having somebody like Sadhguru Jaddi Vasudev. We have somebody like the gentleman Sri Sri Ravi Shankar from Bangalore. What does this, because we've earlier had much bigger people. I mean, if I remember Steve Jobs used to say he used to follow Neem Karoli Baba. What is that power that we have to unleash, which we have?
Now again, look at what Modi did. See, Modi's astuteness has not been understood because his own party can't market him. What do you do with International Yoga Day?
Yeah, that's brand India.
Earlier, yoga used to be seen as a concept of the Western world.
Yes.
Bhai, hamara tha. What has he done with Ayurveda? What is Sanjeev Goenka's son, Shashwat, doing with the Ayurveda business in Calcutta? Which is now going to spread.
We're taking ownership of our own brands, basically.
We are now celebrating everything that's uniquely Indian. You know, in Gwalior, Usha Kiran Palace, Jyotiraditya Scindia's palace जो भी है,
yes.
उसमें एक bathing ritual है called Mangal Shnan. Have you heard of it?
No.
Point. Look at what Modi has done with Kashi. Today, more and more people, and hats off, Sanjay Rao of Teamworks does a Kashi festival. These are the things we need to bring back. I have to go totally insane telling people. कोई साला सुनता है नहीं. But I'm always telling people.
You mean there is a lot of things that we can market, but we haven't marketing it enough?
We aren't even creating them. We are not creating IP. We are only bloody surrounded by Bollywood or Tollywood. अरे यार घंटा तुम अपना जो बाकी है तो celebrate करो. Have we forgotten the brilliant all-night Indian classical music concerts we had? I grew up in Calcutta. Come winter, we would be at Dover Lane Music Conference. I used to take part in College Fest. We would be overnight, you know, the OAT Open Air Theatre. We'd be listening to Pandit Jasraj, followed by Kishori
That's
Amonkar.
again our history and culture.
Followed by Kishori Amonkar. Followed by Bhimsen Joshi. Today, you know, we are losing touch with our own Sanskriti, with our own heritage, with our own legacy. Which, by the way, Modi's trying to bring back. And tell me, today when Anita Ambani asks people from across India in different musical and dance forms to perform at NMACC.
Yes, that's again a...
It's brilliant. She's bringing all of India into Bandra.
Yes.
Now, wouldn't you want to do that? Of course you would. And there's a lot. And let me tell you, today a Khushro Santook at NCPA or Music Academy in Chennai, notwithstanding the controversy, or what Sangeet Kala Mandir does in Calcutta. Fabulous.
One thing I want to know now in up north, there's this whole tradition of ski resorts. We had the Ford one
वो
of
तो
the
बंद हो गया ना, वो तो चला ही नहीं.
Yeah, the
Because of
force-
environmental clearances.
Do you think that's where we need to work on environment, this, that, so that the investors don't run away?
Now you've hit the nail. Which is the most popular, which is the best ski resort today in Asia? It's in Gulmarg, where one of the coaches, who I've been told is amongst the world's finest, is a guy called Mahmood Akbar or Mahmood something. What do we have? We have Khyber, we have Highland
It's
Park.
one of the best resorts.
But point I'm making is, you could do much more.
Yes, you could.
Omar Abdullah tweeted saying the powder there compares to the powder, and when I say powder, I'm obviously referring to ski powder. It compares to the best in the world. Now, point I'm making is, हम लोग market ही नहीं करते. But today, I'll give you one thing which will shock you and your viewers. India has a 7,200 kilometer coastline. एक marina नहीं है.
In the whole 7,200 kilometers. So we've missed that opportunity.
Barcelona, which will fit into Gurgaon, I mean, I don't know if it will or not,
But yeah,
has 3. Dubai has 2. India over 7,200 kilometers we don't. Because हम डरते हैं भाई पाकिस्तान से कोई आ जाएगा. From gateway of India to Alibag you need 14 permissions, but Kasab came happily. So what kind of nonsense is this here? Then this bloody habit of भाई ये naval airfield है, ये this है. Look at what the difference between Kerala and Goa. My child and my wife live in Goa. Look at what Goa could become if the government there, and they've got good people. Sawant is good, Vishwajit Rana is very good. They've got a good chief secretary. But boss, you need an entire administration. Now, you are making Goa into a ragamuffin kind of destination. People are coming by the bus road, वो सुबह आते हैं. पेशाब भी वहाँ, खाना भी वहाँ, रास्ते पे, and then they bugger off.
it affects brand Goa.
Now look at what Kerala has done. Kerala has kept tourism at a certain level. I'm not saying outprice yourself.
But there should be a certain class of people that inhabit
Now
it.
you talked about airports. Look at the Mopa, Goa Mopa airport, fantastic. Delhi airport beats the hell out of most airports. Bombay airport, fantastic. So I am saying where we can, we always succeed. But the will is strong. At times the flesh is weak.
So one thing I want to ask you, one of my ending questions would be, do you think our brilliance is visible in patches?
Yes.
Great Bombay airport, great hotel. But then, when you get out, everything is in a mess. Then there's something great. That needs improvement.
I call it India's flyover strategy. यहाँ से flyover बनेगा, beautiful. उतरेगा भी सही. But where will it end? We are great believers in the journey. We are not great believers in the destination.
Yeah, like I remember one of your tweets long ago where you said that Gurgaon has the finest condominiums in the world, but when you get out, you have to swim. Because I think the roads were flooded and it was monsoons.
Now, tell me, DLF has built those underpasses which are brilliant. What prevents the government? Today in Gurgaon, there are more liquor vends than schools. There are more booze shops than tea shops. That should tell you the priorities of the government.
Right.
Now, aap bolo mere ko, Delhi today has some of the most amazing walks in Old Delhi.
Yes.
Some of the most amazing monuments.
Yes.
But do we have that level of tourism? No. Greece, एक पत्थर भी होगा ना, उसको market कर देंगे.
One stone, one piece.
One stone. There, come and see the stone.
But do you see this is where we need to work
Look
more?
at our cuisine. Today, Indian cuisine is celebrated across the world. हमारा क्या है? You want Indian cuisine? Yeah. You want? Okay. 2 restaurants. Bukhara or Karibs.
Indian is like 30 states. There are so many different kinds of foods. Yes.
अरे भाई, लोया को देख लो. You see house of which is going on for ages. नहीं. You want Indian food? Yeah. Come to Bukhara or come to Karim's. So we have standard responses. In many years ago, I mean, you mustn't have been born then. We were doing some food show or some review. I wasn't part of the show, but there's a friend of mine. He says, where do you get the best butter chicken? So I said, why? He said, no, I've been told Pandara Rodeo. I said, it's a small hole-in-the-wall restaurant called Mughal Mahal in Rajendra Place. आप जानते हो?
No.
Because Mughal Mahal's owner, when I told him, I said, Sardarji, एनो मार्केट क्यों नहीं कर दे? Means why don't you market it? Kaun kalesh moega ji? Means who will take the kalesh? So we are lazy marketeers. In America, every second bloody pizzeria will tell you it's the world's finest pizza.
Yes, the steakhouse will be claiming is the best steakhouse.
हमारे इंडिया में there is an unwillingness to market. नहीं ये अब कौन लेगा? कौन करेगा?
So it's a cultural issue.
Because we are very content. You see, why? Because we are great believers कि यार अगर इस जन्म में करना है अगले जन्म में तो पैदा होना ही है तो इस जन्म में क्यों करो?
So one of my last questions to you is, we'll continue this in our next show when we do it. 3-4 big takeaways. You named some great brands in the show. You named some great brands that has brought us pride as a nation, and that that have created the brand India name. But you also shared with us that growth in patches that we discussed. Do you think the next 10-15 years are about filling those patches?
Absolutely.
The missing gaps in the India story.
Absolutely. And you don't have to go far. Look at what the governments are doing. Forget what the central government is doing. Look at what state governments are doing. The state governments today are taking the owners that you and I never imagined. Look at what Yogi Adityanath is doing in Uttar Pradesh. Look at what Shivraj attempted to do and was doing in Madhya Pradesh. So I have great hope in the states of India because they are recognizing the potential of those, of what they can achieve.
And I go back to Modi because you spoke about him on the show, that Amitabh Bachchan as brand ambassador for Gujarat worked.
Absolutely.
Because you saw him wearing Gujarati clothes, going to Kutch, marketing the food of Gujarat. Do you think that also helps?
Absolutely. And let me tell you, there is no dearth of great brand ambassadors. But we have to get out also of that Bollywood cricket trap.
Yeah, there are many more people.
No, you have to celebrate every category. अरे एक ज़माने में आपको याद नहीं होगा, Red Label, Lipton, उसका brand ambassador होता था Zakir Hussain.
Right. Yes.
Tabla maestro.
Yes. So
now everything is the same, either cricketer or Bollywood.
So basically, that's where the marketing advice is lacking.
Marketing in India is woefully inadequate because we are unwilling to think out of the box. We are risk averse most of the time. Plus, marketing needs investment. But more than investment, marketing needs imagination. We are a great country for being cookie cutters, but we are a very poor country for imagination. And let me tell you, every joker who uses the word Jugaad is doing India and Indians a great disservice. Because Jugaad is the easy way out. It is not the imaginative way out.
Right.
Jugaad is a bypass. It's not the highway. So we have to stop using this nonsensical word called Jugaad. And actually become responsible.
Demean ourselves.
And demean ourselves. And say, oh yaar, Jugaadu hai. Boss, how will I get a ticket? Jugaad kar lenge. Arey, that means you are violating a particular normalcy and a particular norm. Is that what we want to encourage our young to do? And that is my point. So, 3 important areas of concentration for India. We have to replace education with knowledge. We have to replace investment with investment plus imagination. And we have to start believing in India, not just in the esoteric idea of India. When we believe in India, we will believe in everything Indian. When we believe in India, we will believe in Indians. And when we believe in India, we will believe in the Indian potential. These are the 3 critical areas of our belief system. Because if you don't believe, you will never do. And if you don't do, it won't happen.
Interesting. Today was a good conversation with you on the brands that India made, and also our series on the next 20-30 years of India's growth story brand-wise. And look forward to some more conversation in our next recording. But thanks for now. Thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.